Today we're going to break down and analyze how pros like to play ASTRA on attack. We'll learn how they vary in their approach on the complicated controller and what we can take away and implement into our own gameplay. I'm Chill and let's get into it. If you're interested in free VOD reviews, check out my Discord in the description below. These will be done live on my stream every Friday. Just make sure to read the rules and requirements before submitting your VOD. All right, back to the video. The first pro we'll take a look at is Boaster on Split. He starts round 8 by calming a fairly uncommon smoke in a heaven and asks his Cypher to cage the cross and put a cam on the wall so that they can see if anyone's peeking ramp.
I'm gonna put a star here, smoke it, and then throw a main cage. Can you do this camera instead? I think this camera.
This camera and cage will actually help them break the deadlock barrier at the very start of the round, since deadlock has been doing that for the last few rounds.
That should wet.
He flashed the heaven.
I'll also note that Boaster's using a recall star here so that he can cross pretty safely, but the Cypher already has a cage here, so it really doesn't matter too much in this situation.
No one heaven, I got heaven.
So you may see a smoke like this and question why would you use this on attack when it seems like it might actually help the defenders. So the reason for the smoke is actually because it allows them to take map control deep into ramps. Without this smoke, they may have to fight for ramps control and maybe lose a player or two on the way up. So this is kind of a way to get slow map control in a relatively safe manner. Now they can use recon utility like a sky dog to clear out heaven and see where the enemies are playing in heaven and vents.
Can you dog through?
Yeah, sure.
There's nothing B right now.
Taking that back.
One side on nine.
Unfortunately, the defender in vents kind of sneaks up and gets a couple picks, but luckily Boaster cleans up. So real quick, notice how Boaster kind of just leaves the bomb here. And the reason for this is because he has the chamber playing towards mid that's going to lurk up through vents and probably grab the spike for him. And Boaster doesn't really want to give up control of a potential timing he'll have into screens and spawn. He also knows that by lurking towards screens, they have information that one is playing on A site somewhere, and the Raze is about to challenge them. So he wants to be in a position where he can kind of refrag and get behind the defender and take A site.
Blocking vision.
Elbow.
So this smoke that Boaster's playing in is pretty normal for taking heaven control, but it can be a double-edged sword. So the way that Boaster is playing it is that he's moving into the smoke and waiting for an enemy to kind of peek through, and then maybe he gets a pick and then continues routing towards screens towards sight. But the reason that this smoke could potentially be bad is because if you don't push this smoke and take control of the screens area, the defender can actually use this smoke to cross over into screens without the attacker in heaven knowing about it. This is why Boaster kind of waits in the smoke and waits for the enemy to peek through for a second.
Find him.
I'm gonna counter mid. I have a wall still. The wall is gonna break.
Boaster's last smoke here is another interesting one. So the reason he's kind of smoking himself off of sight here is because he wants the defender on site to have a false sense of security that no one's behind him. And if he places a normal smoke like this, he'll assume that the attackers are all coming from A main or heaven. This kind of allows Boaster to sneak through the smoke and help the Raze fight the deadlock on site without the deadlock knowing. Fortunately for Boaster, the Raze wins the fight on the deadlock and then they have a free A site.
Could be in
Maybe
heaven.
Wait, I'm behind.
Last player standing.
I have the spike.
40 HP.
Oh.
This round was a great example of how you can kind of slow play on Split with ASTRA and slowly take map control one area at a time. So now that we saw a slower way to play ASTRA on attack, let's take a look at a little bit of a different way to play ASTRA on Split. Next up, we have 100 Thieves Bang. So this next clip from Bang demonstrates a fast take of A. And the reason that they do this is because they do have a team comp that allows for a more aggressive and fast take of sight. They have a breach to concuss long lanes and flashes, and they have a neon as well. So they can really get onto site in a hurry. And they also have Bang's wall, which he's going to kind of put across site this way and block off heaven and block off screens as well. So let's take a look at how that works out.
Breaking the situation.
We know. Okay, yeah, you Raptors, don't wall up though. You just wall up for a second.
No, I think he used it. I think he used it. Yeah, you just used it.
Alright, I walled this. Look at that. Yeah.
I broke a trip. He's close, I think.
I'm
I
pulling
just stunned our
them,
neon.
knocking them.
Can't be out of heaven.
Go, go,
I
go.
mean, he's gonna be elbow. I shit on that kid.
Main heaven.
One enemy remaining.
Minus heaven.
Flawless.
So you'll see here that Bang actually puts a suck behind map and a concuss towards elbow. And this will make it really difficult for the player on site to get out. And if they are playing in these positions, they're pretty much screwed because they're collapsing on site really quickly. An alternative place for this concuss right here I've seen is kind of right in elbow, which kind of covers all of this area as well. So you can kind of mix those up depending on where you think the enemy might be playing. Also, Bang decides to kind of hang back here because he has a bunch of teammates on site and he's kind of expecting someone to walk out of the wall and maybe take some fights here. That's exactly what happens, and Bang gets a pick on the raise, and eventually they win the round pretty easily here. So that's just another way that you can think about playing quickly on split instead of that slower pace style where you take map control incrementally like we saw with Boaster. So before we move off of Bang, I want to show you exactly why ASTRA can be such a complicated and high level agent. So I'm going to show you 3 different rounds here where Bang mixes up his star placements and his utility usage in B heaven alone. And this is mostly because he has a breach kind of calming what he wants and how he wants to play for B heaven control. So let's take a look at the first one here on round 6.
Going astral, guys.
Nice close.
Obscuring vision.
Vent.
Cypher's green.
Second.
Pulling them in.
Drop this wall.
I'm looking ramp. I'm looking ramp.
I stunned this guy.
So I know that was a little bit hard to see, but Bang puts a normal smoke in vents here, which is, you know, pretty standard. And then we have a suck right here at the top of male. And it's also pretty hard to see, but breach actually concusses all of B heaven as well as the neon scales up mid and concusses male. If anyone is playing in this area at all, they're pretty much dead unless they fall all the way back to B site because there's just no escaping this utility usage at all. Anyone playing a little bit aggressive here is going to get punished immediately. This does take a lot of coordination with your team, which is why I was explaining before, ASTRA can be very complicated. On the very next round, you'll actually see Bang put a smoke in vents again, and then he puts this kind of default star in male. I've actually seen this setup used a lot by other pros, where they kind of just place these 2 stars as somewhat of a default here, and they may not even use them, but at least they're there more as like a threat.
Wall up. Just everybody go side.
So you'll actually notice here that Xander on Viper here is pressuring mid, and he can use these stars kind of at any time if Xander needs it. So when Xander calms like, hey, can you smoke or can you suck male, then Bang can do it, you know, at like a drop of a hat. In this round, they actually take A site, and he doesn't really need to use the stars, but it's there as an option.
Shock it.
Hey, now.
Concealment. Shock it. There we go. Without it, pulling them in.
Flashing up, you main. Hey, he's killer. He's killer.
Wait. Take 1 month side. I'm gonna hold heaven. I'm gonna hold heaven.
Get my flash.
So for the last clip, you'll notice that he does the normal vent smoke here, but he places kind of a weird suck star on the edge of rafters here. And this will kind of help this neon scale up into heaven with their ult. And if anyone is holding this angle in rafters here, it'll kind of prevent them from peeking and getting the pick on the neon, allowing them to pretty much take control of all of heaven here. He also places a smoke back here and holds heaven control as his team takes site. So these are just a few of the ways that you can use ASTRA's utility and be heaven and make it really difficult for the defenders to predict what you're going to do. Like I said before, it does take a lot of team coordination. So without that, you kind of lose a lot of value when it comes to this kind of utility usage. So always make sure you're calming and, you know, hopefully your teammates can play off of it. So next up, we have another Bang clip here, this time on Sunset. So here's an example of how Bang uses ASTRA's wall to take B site and concusses for his teammates to get onto site.
14-year-olds care about that, but like real human beings.
Wait, Jay, so that's the guy.
Yeah, he was in our game.
Blasting them. Enemy
Can you flash your girl again?
Spike drop.
You go through, you go through.
I'm not. You don't have to. But can you bait it? Can you take your gun crew right here? I'm not gonna take your gun crew.
Enemy remaining.
Vision.
So Bang uses this pretty interesting wall that goes across and cuts off Market and Boba towards the back here. And it kind of also leaves this little gap on the jump up right behind the hand there and allows you to kind of scale up and control this backside area. He also places a concuss star here, and just kind of notice the placement of the star. It's not all the way in the corner here because that would kind of leave a lot of space that it's not affecting. So if you place a star all the way in the corner like this, it's only going to cover kind of about this amount of space. But if you place it further out here, now you're getting all all of this space, including the area inside. You'll also notice that this jet here is about to entry site, and Bang thinks that they're going to route back site because that's a pretty common routing from jets on B site here. So he wants to make sure he can concuss anyone that's playing in that spot as well. So next up we have Liquid's player Jamppi. So this one's pretty similar to the one that we just saw with Bang, with a few key differences.
Okay, flash right side. Okay, flash right side. I can't down a big reset.
I need it pulling them in.
So you'll notice that Jamppi starts off with this suck star here, and this will prevent the player that's playing against the spawn barrier from peeking into this angle where his team is going to be scaling. So this elbow suck will actually allow the attackers to scale up without really having to worry about elbow right away, and they can really just fight A main in case anyone's peeking that side. This kind of crossfire area can be pretty tricky for attackers to navigate sometimes, and I'm sure in your games you've gotten stuck right in this area as the enemy just uses a bunch of flashes and utility to kind of take control of this space. This is really where the first fight's gonna be, and this suck actually makes it pretty easy for them to take this space without worrying about someone peeking. It can also allow the dive agents like a Raze or a Jet to kind of get into the space really quickly and punish the player that is peeking this area.
I need it pulling them in.
Sure that is a mid push, bro. I got smoke. Smoking.
I can flash inside if you want.
Can you
go outside, I think, if we get smoked down. Flashing side.
So Jamppi decides to kind of hang out in mid here for a while and just check to see if there's any flankers through the back of A. I'm sure you've seen in your games as well that this kind of flank through elbow up behind A as your other defenders retake from these positions is fairly common. So that's why Jamppi's kind of staying back here and waiting for this rotate from the cypher here. He gets off a couple normal smokes for his teammates and rejoins them at A.
Tagged one side. Two tagged.
One enemy remaining.
Can't use that yet. Long.
And towards the end of the clip, you'll actually see that Jamppi's looking at his minimap here, and he sees the Raze playing behind Dice on site. And that's when he decides to put a concuss here and just make it easy for his teammates to get that pick. They actually die before he can get the concuss off, but it's actually great awareness from Jamppi to use a concuss in this situation. And finally, we have Nats on Ascent. There are a few good executes that we can take away from this game, so let's take a look starting with pistol round on A.
Okay, I'm gonna do smoke, pull and stun, okay? So we have to go super fast.
Concealment. Concealment. Pulling them in. Concussing it.
Stairs.
Lane.
Reload.
You have a spike. Nice.
Yeah, no. One CT out, I think, guys.
Oh, no one out.
Wait.
Enemy.
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
It could be behind, yeah, careful.
Could be behind.
Flawless.
Yeah, behind. Nice.
So this is actually something that I've seen Nats do quite often when he plays ASTRA, especially on like eco or pistol rounds. He'll typically put down 2 smokes and then use his last 2 stars to take site really effectively. This is a way to just kind of bombard the site with utility along with his teammates' utility and take it quickly. So these smokes are fairly normal, and this suck is pretty good for stairs to prevent any enemies from kind of peeking out as they're taking site. And this stun might seem like it's in kind of like a weird spot, but this jump up here on the ledge of lane is actually pretty common for players to stand because you can kind of peek in and out here back and forth and see if anyone's coming this way. It's also easy for them to kind of just like drop down onto the box here. So this stun will actually concuss all of this area. So next time you're playing ASTRA on Ascent, give this pistol round B rush a try. So you saw that fast B execute, but now let's go back around and actually check out his A execute.
Better luck next line. Blocking vision. Obscuring vision. Concussing it.
So as you saw there, this is pretty common for Nats, and I've seen him use this kind of setup multiple times while hitting A site. He likes to put the smoke in door here, which is, you know, pretty normal. And then he puts a star in rafters that turns into a smoke, and he puts another star very close to that first one, and typically either uses it as a suck star or a concuss, depending on the situation. Normally he'll do a suck star here to kind of prevent the defender from peeking out, allowing his teammates to get onto site pretty easily. But this time you'll see him actually check his minimap, and he actually uses this as kind of a concuss star instead. This is a little bit of a mix-up to trick the defenders into thinking that they're safer than they might actually be. So he's using that concuss more reactively as he's checking his minimap when his team is fighting site.
Concussing it.
Under or what?
Come on.
One enemy remaining. Spike down A.
I have this spike.
And in typical Nats fashion, he makes the round look very easy. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see from me in the future. Subscribe for more videos like this one and check out this one next for more. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.